Good morning. Hopefully this lesson will be a very quick and easy lesson. It's basically just being able to factor out a monomial or be able to do the reverse distributive property. In elementary school, we learned to do the greatest common factor or factor out the greatest common factor. But here we have variables involved and multiple terms, one term or two, three terms. You could have 100 terms. But what we're looking for is to be able to pull out from both terms things they have, factors they have in common. So in other words, 4 has factors of 1, 2, and 4. 8 has factors of 1, 2, 4, and 8. The greatest common factor they had was 4. So what you would do is you'd factor out a 4. Also, this has an n squared and this has an n, so they both have at least one factor of n. So we'd factor out an n, then you put parentheses and you write what's left. In other words, 4n squared divided by 4n leaves a n. Negative 8n divided by 4n leaves a minus 2. And there we have factored out the greatest common factor. If you accidentally did 4 and then parentheses n squared minus 2n, you haven't done the greatest common factor because they still have an n. If you did maybe a 2n and left a 2n minus 4, again, you haven't factored out the greatest common factor because there's a 2 in common with both. So always factor out the greatest. Here's one with 3 terms and higher exponents. So again, 35, 10, and 25. Well, the only common factor on the coefficient is a 5. And then we have 10 b's here that are being multiplied together, 8 b's here that are being multiplied together, and 6 b's here that are being multiplied together. So this does have 6 plus a couple more. This has 6 plus 4 more. So the greatest amount they have in common is the 6, the 6 b's, or b to the 6th. So then, again, 35 divided by 5 is 7. Now be careful here. B to the 10th divided by b to the 6th, we minus the exponents. 10 minus 6 is b to the 4th, plus 10 divided by 5 is 2. B to the 8th divided by b to the 6th is b squared, minus 25 divided by 5 is 5. B to the 6th divided by b to the 6th is just 1. And we're left with this expression as our factored form. You can even have multiple variables in the same expression. So again, all you're going to do is first look at the coefficient. 36 does have a factor of 12. So I'm going to factor out a 12. We have an f squared here and an f here. So this has 2 f's, this has 1 f, so I do have at least an f to factor out. This has 1 g, this has 1 g. Oh, they both have a common factor of g. This has 10 h's being multiplied together. This has 8 h's, so I can do up to 8 h's. So now here, 36 divided by 12 is going to be 3. F squared divided by f will leave an f. G divided by g is a 1, which you don't need to write. H to the 10th over h to the 8th would be h squared. Plus, now here's a tricky one. I factored out all of this. I factored out the 12, I factored out the f, I factored out the g, and I factored out the h to the 8th. That doesn't mean there's a 0 left. You're dividing this term by what I'm factoring out. And anything, if it's all factored out, anything divided by itself completely, leaves a 1. So remember, if you have a 2-term expression and you're factoring out, it should have a 2-term expression inside the parentheses. If you have a 7-term expression, you should have 7 terms. And one of those terms might be a 1. Also, they will try to be very, very tricky, and they'll give you expressions that there's nothing to factor out. So the greatest common factor between 3x and 7 is 1. You do not have to write 1 parentheses 3x plus 7. You just rewrite it and say it's factored as much as it possibly can. If you have questions, please bring them to class.